Welcome back to Coffee with Yvonne, a show for creatives and entrepreneurs. I'm Yvonne Pearson, your host, and darling, the founder of Pink Doll House Marketing. And you know what? If you live in the DMV or you were covered by all that snow that we got last week, are you over it? Because I'm over it. Because the way this weather has been given, is Mother Nature going through something? She got to go through something, because I think her and Father Ty need to go through some counseling. They need to talk it out, because she can't keep taking it out on us. Between the wind chills, the snow that turned into ice, and just people don't know how to drive or stay in the house. And now the ice ain't Winter Wonderland no more. It's just ice. It's just ice. I feel like I'm in Game of Thrones when they hit that North Wall. You know, the North remembers. And was it the White Walkers? I think it was the White Walkers who lived beyond the wall. Anyway, that's not why we're here. We are here for another episode of Marketing Magic for Coffee with Yvonne. And for those of you who are new here, hi! Marketing Magic is when I dive into the campaigns that you've seen on your timeline. You know, when you hit that scroll, that you've seen on your timeline. And, I dive into the marketing tactics behind them. Things you may be aware of, things you may not be aware of. And I break it down in a fun and engaging way. So this week on the show, we're chatting all about Romeo Bingham, from TikTok to TV, from halftime to Fluent, Duolingo's big game strategy, Khaby Lame, because he Italian. Influence as equity. And then finally, we going to talk about Nike and LeBron. Intent versus impact, a lesson in cultural marketing. So grab your coffee and let's chat. And at the time of recording this, it's roughly, checks notes, 8:33 in the morning. Yes, it is. I got up on here early today, y'all. So for our first story, we're going to talk about Romeo Bingham, from TikTok to TV. And if you see me looking down at my screen, it's because I bring notes to the conversation so we can have an engaged and informed chat. So for this, I honestly got my source from TikTok while I was scrolling. I saw it on TikTok first, but then I went a little bit deeper after going to Romeo's social media page to find out more from Business Insider. So to pull an excerpt from the source, TikToker Romeo Bingham, 25, is receiving an outpouring of support after their viral Dr. Pepper jingle was picked up by the brand and used in a commercial that aired during college football's playoff national championship game. As of Wednesday afternoon, the post had over 44 million views, 50,000 comments from users and brands alike. Bingham's video gained traction on TikTok before the jingle was featured in a TV commercial. So that TikTok, that it wasn't a perfectly curated TikTok. It wasn't something that, they planned ahead of time. It was literally top of the dome that Romeo came up with this jingle. That TikTok was picked up by Dr. Pepper. And the cool thing is, this is also recognizing how creators are changing how we look at campaigns, strategies, and now jingles. The creativity that lives on these apps is profound. And you don't have to be a creator before we get into those marketing takeaways. You don't have to be a creator who has a bajillion followers or has, makes creating their full-time job. Sometimes people are casual creators. Oh, that's a new phrase. I gotta trademark that. But sometimes people are casual creators, in which you're just doing it for the love of being on the platform. And sometimes people fully lean into being full-time content creators. But there's innovation on these platforms when you get outside all the mess that people be posting. There's a lot of people who are leveraging their creativity for these channels and bringing that to the front of the stage to allow for brands to tap in. Really quick story time for me, for a personal story. I've worked with brands and, different campaigns from my TikTok videos and Instagram videos that have been picked up for campaigns. More recently, I had one that was selected for Le Petit Chef, and it's like a animated dining experience in which the animated chefs compete, with different dishes, and you see like all the animations on your plate, and then they bring out the actual dishes for you to enjoy. That video was picked up by Le Petit Chef when I was in Brussels, and that video has generated a little over 1.1 million views on my Instagram video alone. Another video that was picked up when I was just being myself was one for Vogue for the Met Gala. The Vogue Met Gala video in which I was reacting to Coleman Domingo, and I just made like a really quick, cute song to talk about how he ate that look up, got picked up by Vogue and was used to promote the Met Gala campaign as part of a test campaign in working with creators. They even sent me a cute package in the mail to thank me for using my content with a handwritten note that I still have. And then finally, other videos that have gotten picked up, I have worked with Hulu. When my Paradise video was picked up, that has done over I have lost track. 5.3, I think, million views on TikTok. And now I'm part of their creator program in partnership with Hulu to promote Paradise. And I've started, working with them on the campaign rollout and promotion. I say all that to say, I don't have 10,000 followers on TikTok. I don't have a bajillion followers on Instagram, but my content itself is impactful. And that's what's most important. It's authentic. It's original content. I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm literally just being myself. The same way I talk to you right here, right now, is the same way I am on my social media channels. And the point I'm making is, even if you don't have a huge following, if you have the right content that hits the right audience, you can get the attention of the right brands and the right companies who may want to work with you. So let's get into those marketing takeaways before I get too deep in the conversation between you and I. First, let's talk about how brands don't need to create culture, they need to curate it. Dr. Pepper's win wasn't creativity from scratch. It was curation with taste. They recognized a moment that already worked and amplified it. More importantly, modern brand value increasingly comes from editorial judgment, not original invention. And what I think is important too is the culture that lives on these spaces on social media. We all know culture moves things forward. Black creators, people of color, people who are part of inclusive communities, they are the people who are really moving the needle forward. Things like AAVE, it's like a lingo in African American culture, has now been adopted by Gen Z, and they try to call it Gen Z slang. It originated in Black culture. It also originated in Black queer culture, to tell the truth. And things like that, in which the culture is so intertwined into the everyday, you sometimes forget who the originators were in terms of their impact and do not give credit where credit is due. What social media is doing is leveraging the playing field, because people have tried it. People have tried to take from other creators, and people will jump them quick in the comments like, excuse me, this is not your original concept. They'll tag the person, this is their original work. Or you'll see people who are other creators who see, people's artwork get stolen and repurposed for like another platform without permission. They'll flag it, they'll report it, they'll take it down, they'll send it to another creator, because they understand the value of what comes from that creativity. They understand how much work it takes to be an originator, an original thought, original, concept, or even design. That takes a lot of work. And to take from another person, to take from a culture and not recognize the impact of said culture, a lot of brands get it wrong, but Dr. Pepper got it right. Next up in our marketing takeaways, let's talk about how familiarity beats novelty in high-reach media. The jingle already lived rent-free in our minds and on TikTok. When it appeared on TV, viewers said, now hold up, I know that song. I heard it before. Of course, you have the ones who aren't tapped into social who heard it for the first time, but viewers experience recognizing the song and not interruption. When recognizing the song, they build a familiarity already with the jingle. They were like, oh, this is the girl with the TikTok, Dr. Pepper. And now you have people who may not have even been aware that Dr. Pepper was still a brand that they should consider, because people do have brand loyalty to their favorite, beverages and products. Now they're like, let me go ahead and try Dr. Pepper. Let me go ahead and try Dr. Pepper. And it's also a great way for Dr. Pepper to talk to younger audiences. Younger audiences right now, Gen Alpha is coming up. Gen Z is now entering adulthood in the workforce. They want to align more with brands that talk to who they are as individuals. And Dr. Pepper, leaning into the TikTok generation, they're showing that they are tapped in and that they are listening to their audience in real time and not a delayed response. Finally, paying creators signals value, not just compliance. Basically, run me my money. Okay, run me my money. Because when it comes to paying creators, how do I say this nicely? Especially considering how much money these companies make off of creators' original content. The money that is generated a lot of times through this content because of the buzzworthiness, because it's trending, because it's fresh. A lot of times creators are either happy to be in the room to have their content considered, or they're being lowballed for what they're bringing to the table in terms of the original content. By officially licensing and crediting Romeo, Dr. Pepper avoided the common traps of brands borrowing internet culture without compensation. And fair creator treatment, that builds long-term goodwill with audiences, not just creators. Because I could tell you a story right now. Real quick. A couple stories about how my content was shared without my permission on a very big TMZ style platform. And I asked them multiple times to tag me as the original creator. The people who follow me asked them multiple times to tag me as the original creator, and they never did. That tweets that they pulled from my Twitter and sent it over to Instagram, if I wasn't following the account or if people didn't tag me, I would have never known. By Dr. Pepper taking the ethical approach and paying the creator what they're worth and making sure that they recognized her work and then just steal what she had and repurpose it and say, oh, well, you put it on social media and you tagged us, so we thought it was free game. Says a lot about who they are as a brand. And I look forward to seeing how Romeo is going to continue to grow her jingle business, because the Jingles 8. She even has more if you follow her on TikTok. Go ahead and see what else she's coming up with. She's currently working with Hyundai on a partnership, and I am very excited, darling, to see what she comes up with. Okay, in our next story, we're going to talk about Bad Bunny. And Bad Bunny, if you don't know, is headlining the halftime show for the big game coming up very soon. In this next story, from halftime to Fluent, Duolingo's big game strategy, I got this originally from, again, TikTok. I get a lot of my news recently from TikTok, to be honest with you. So I went to Mashable, where I got the article about Duolingo's partnership with Bad Bunny. And, teaching the audience Spanish, because y'all try to act like you can't learn a language. Okay? You go to Taco Tuesday. Okay? You know how to order the quesadilla. Okay? You know how to do all that, but you can't take time just to learn a little bit of Spanish. So to pull an excerpt from the source, the language-leaning app has launched a cheeky Bad Bunny one-on-one campaign designed to help fans pick up just enough Spanish or Espanol to keep up with the Puerto Rican rapper's lyrics. One of the prompts in the ads asks users to translate the title of his hit, Titi Me Pregunto, while Duolingo famously unhinged our mascot gets a full Bad Bunny makeover, pava hat and all. To pull another quote from the article, Spanish is the second most spoken language in the U.S., and it's already part of how culture shows up, Duolingo's chief marketing officer, Manu Orsad, said in the statement via the San Francisco Chronicle, underscoring the app's pitch that learning the language isn't just practical, it's pop cultural. And before we get into those marketing takeaways, I definitely agree with their chief marketing officer on this. As someone who grew up in the DMV, and to tell a quick backstory about my family, my aunt, God rest her soul, my aunt Ann was married to my Uncle Ray, my tío, who is Puerto Rican, right? And then one of my best friends growing up, Bianca, her family is Dominican. Growing up here in the area too, I was surrounded by culture all the time, still am surrounded by culture. But I learned Spanish through listening. I learned the cultural aspect of Spanish. Not the perfect like conjugated verbs, but I learned the cultural Spanish that I got at the Dominican salon when I was getting my blowouts in high school. And my mother also had to learn Spanish for her role when she worked in the federal government. So I learned it very young. And for someone like me who I never thought anything about speaking Spanish. I'm not fluent anymore like I used to, but if I get immersed in the culture enough, that ear turns back on, in which I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this word, or it'll take me a second, but I'll be able to get the conversation again. It's really important to me that people understand learning a language is not something that people who, how do I put this nicely? Learning a language expands your cultural understanding in a way that takes you outside of your comfort zone, in which you have to work a little bit harder to communicate. Taking the time to learn Spanish as a child, specifically Spanish that, in the Caribbean region, because there is a difference. There's difference in Spanish, just like there's difference in English and how it's spoken in different places. But taking the time to learn that really allowed me as a child to be open to other things. It allowed for me to be exposed to cultures outside of my own and have an appreciation of said culture. It also allowed for me to understand that there's almost an arrogance. No, there's not almost an arrogance. There is an arrogance of people who refuse to try to learn another language and tell someone or make fun of someone because their English is not perfect, right? Spanish being the second most spoken language here in the U.S., there needs to be a shift in people recognizing that this language, in terms of use in this country, is not going away. For Duolingo, to get back to our marketing takeaways in a moment, for Duolingo to recognize that this performance is not just a musical performance, it's a cultural message that the Latino community is just as ingrained in terms of the thread and the roots here in the United States as everyone else. So let's get into those marketing takeaways. Duolingo just didn't compete with the event, it complemented it. Rather than stealing the attention from the big game, Duolingo added value around it, giving fans something to do before and after the show. This is smart because it shows that event marketing doesn't interrupt the moment, it extends it. And in that next marketing takeaway, let's talk about how mascot equity is a long-term growth asset. The Dual Owl just didn't promote the campaign, it carried it. Years of building like memes, trust, familiarity, funny content, and permission to be loud during a massive moment like the big game. It allowed for the mascot to build, notoriety with this audience. People recognize the owl as being a representation without even having the words Duolingo nearby. And that is very smart. And it's very similar to how other companies leverage their mascots to tell a greater story. When you have a mascot that is so intertwined with the brand and the company, you don't need any other messaging behind it. People just know who and what that is and what you're selling without having to utter a word. And then closing out that part about mascot equity, brand characters aren't just gimmicks, they're compounding assets. As the mascot space continues to evolve, you have things like insurance companies who have leveraged the gecko for Geico. You have, Liberty, 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 And you have like things like Limo, Emo, and Doug for like the insurance space. You have mascots that are really taking, the company visibility and brand equity and bringing it to the next level. With Duolingo, not only will this allow for them to get in front of a new audience, it will also allow for them to expand their reach and hopefully bring in more money in terms of subscribers and users for the app. Finally, in those marketing takeaways, Duolingo marketed a use case, not the product. Like I was mentioning a little bit before with the whole mascot thing, instead of saying, let's learn Spanish, Duolingo showed why you want it right now, to understand Bad Bunny's lyrics, slang, and cultural references. It's so easy to do something like go to Google Translate and have them say, Google, go ahead, just translate all these lyrics. It's easy to do that. But when you take the time to actually learn the language itself, you find more of an appreciation. You feel like you're more part of a community and you're not just, learning a song. You're really ingraining yourself in the culture and allowing yourself space to be open to learning other language or other experiences around that culture. The fastest way to drive adoption is to anchor your product to a moment of desire, not just a feature list. In our next story, we're going to talk about Khaby. The guy who don't say much, he just go, oh, him. We're going to talk about how he leveraged influence as equity. I pulled this source from Business Insider Africa to get more information about it. Now, again, I got this from social media too, but I got the additional information from the news. And I chose Business Insider Africa for a reason. Again, I'm going to go on another tangent. It must be a tangent kind of episode. But I chose it for a reason because I think people do not take news sources from other countries as seriously as they do the more European-centered news sources. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. So I chose that on purpose instead of just going to a traditional news outlet. To pull an excerpt from the source, Khaby, the Senegalese-born TikTok star with the largest following on the platform, I think it's like 124 million. It's something crazy. Has struck a landmark commercial deal valued at approximately 900 million. Yes. 900 million USD dollars in dineros. Okay, shout out to Ratchet and Respectable, one of my favorite podcasts I listen to. $900 million, marking one of the most significant monetization moves ever by a global digital creator. The transaction involves the partial sale of his company, Step Distinctive Limited, to Rich Sparkle Holdings, a United States listed firm that disclosed the acquisition alongside a broader strategic partnership focused on scaling Lamé's commercial operations worldwide. Beyond conventional commerce, the agreement also authorizes the development of AI-powered digital twin of Lamé, enabling regulated use of his facial features, voice patterns, and behavioral cues. Now, let's get into those marketing takeaways, shall we? First, let's talk about creators as enterprise, not just media channels. Khaby is not just an influencer, he is now a controlling shareholder in a company managing his brand globally. I think that's very important because people try to disrespect content creators like it's not hard work. Honey, let me tell you something. Have you ever tried to sit here on a camera and talk to yourself hoping that people will eventually see your content? It ain't easy, is it? It's not easy to translate your personality into a digital space, is it? No. And the fact that people are able to leverage that, which is a talent, it is a talent to be able to communicate with people effectively through a medium in which you cannot physically connect. It is a talent to do that. It is a talent to be able to show up as your true self or leverage something like, humor, your acting, your creativity, some kind of skill into these digital platforms. And Khaby is an example of this and how it can work. He legit did say two words on his social media platforms and built it to over 120 some million people and a $900 million sale of his business. That is tactic. That is strategy. Instead of you thinking that he was just going like this the whole time, he thought about that, right? He saw the numbers and that it was working and continue to build on that, right? He saw the numbers, continue to work on it, continue to build and turn that into partnerships, right? He thought about it, continue to build, continue to do the partnerships, and then created all these things that turned into a $900 million business, right? That consistency in the message, the consistency in the placement, the consistency in showing up ended up being what turned that into a $900 million business, right? Do you think that happened overnight? Do you think that was easy? Do you think that did not take some kind of skill to execute? It takes a skill. And a lot of times creators, and I had a creator, Talia, on my show last week. A lot of us have backgrounds in comms, marketing, PR, and industries that are related to this space. Content creation is just an extension of communications. And by leveraging your knowledge already in this space, it gives us a bit of a leg up when it comes to it because we know how these things work. It's just a different medium. Khaby, on the other hand, him being a creator, him being smart enough to know where he wanted his business to grow. He did not just limit himself to TikTok only, which is what a lot of creators, no shade, no foul, tend to fall a little flat in doing. They have one viral video, quit their job, and say, I'm done, I'm not doing this no more. But what was your plan? What was your strategy? What were your tactics? What things did you lay out for protecting yourself as a creator? What things did you do to build strategically to think about where you wanted to be in a year, 2, 3 years? What are you doing to secure your placement in the space? Because a trending video today is a video that may not trend tomorrow. The algorithm is very fickle. It's very fickle. There's strategic approach in content creation if you want to have longevity. And we've seen it work with Khaby. We've seen it work with Kev on Stage. We've seen it work with Issa Rae and others who have made success from taking these digital platforms and turn into actual money and companies that are worth actual assets and actual impact in their industries. So to get into that final marketing takeaway, let's talk about how creator-led e-commerce is a new frontier. Again, like I touched on before, beyond those brand partnerships, the deal positions Khaby's brand to monetize products across beauty, fragrance, apparel, and more. It shows that influence is now convertible to industry scale commerce when it comes to being strategically structured. And him creating something like a digital AI character of himself is actually very smart. It's scary, but it's very smart. And let me tell you why. The reason why it's smart is as we see AI becoming the new frontier of the digital space, first everybody was like, oh my God, social media is going to take our jobs. And before that, oh my God, computers are going to take our jobs. And everybody's like, oh my God, AI is going to take our jobs. Nothing can take your job if you get in front of it. Nothing can take your job if you become a subject matter expert. Nothing can take your job if you prepare for what is coming and not just sit aside like a lame duck and pretend it's not happening. Khaby is seeing the writing on the wall. Instead of someone stealing his likeness, he is creating a digital AI likeness to protect himself and his assets. He is creating that so he can get ahead of the game to turn that into further revenue to build his business. A lot of times when people look at technology, they look at it from a scared approach instead of what it can do in terms of innovation, streamlining workflows, and building new industries like social media did with content creation, building new industries that will drive the messaging forward and also create new ways for people to have careers that are not in traditional fields. 20 plus years ago, content creation did not exist as a career. People thought people were looking crazy out on the streets filming themselves. Now, instead of people walking in front of your camera while you're filming something, people actually stop. As we see with Khaby, he is now evolving his business and his strategy so he can have longevity in the field. So he may not want to be in front of the camera all the time, but this digital likeness can take his place. All right, we got to talk about it. Come on, y'all. Come on, sit down. We got to talk about it. Deep ancestral sigh. Nike and LeBron. Let's talk about intent versus impact, a lesson in cultural marketing. Now, I did not know about the story. My homegirl, Carrie, hey, Carrie. My homegirl, Carrie, who is the host of the Kickback with Carrie podcast, a very good show, by the way. You know who was the first guest on her show? Me. I was. It's a very good show. I love listening to it. Carrie sent this to me. I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to try to keep it high level. I'm going to try to keep it high level. It said what I want to do is low-key drag. But Carrie sent me the story and I pulled an additional excerpt source. I pulled it from USA Today. And to pull a blurb from the source, Nike and LeBron James have found themselves at the center of controversy over an unusual and what many on social media consider have a tone-deaf tribute attempt. The LeBron Honor the King shoe, Lord have mercy, takes inspiration from the teal-colored signage of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, where Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed, Lord have mercy, on April 4th, 1968. The word equality is written on the heel as one of the 23 colorways to be released by Nike, commemorating moments throughout James' 23-year NBA career. Lord have mercy. This one in particular is meant to pay homage to LeBron's 51-point performance against the Grizzlies in Memphis on MLK Day in 2008. Lord have mercy. Whoo! Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's get into the marketing takeaway, shall we? I'm gonna try to keep it positive because In our first marketing takeaway, context matters more than colorways. Sure, the teal design referenced the Lorraine Motel, but that choice came across as tone deaf. Moral of the story, if you're touching down on history or culture, make sure your audience actually gets it. There are criticisms, which are rightfully so, that the National Civil Rights Museum in the actual Lorraine Motel has not been part of the process, raising questions about who gets to tell which stories. If you want the unfiltered version, I'm about to give it to you right now. Context matters more than colorways. It was stupid. It was stupid. It was a miss. Okay. Who was in the room? Who was in the room when y'all came up with this? Who was in the room? Was it one of us? Was it one of us? And if it was one of us, did y'all say something? Because I know y'all had a group chat. I know y'all had a group chat because I use my Slack for plenty of things, and it is to be shady from time to time when I'm at work. Did y'all say something? Who thought LeBron James, MLK Day, he scored a lot of points. We gonna make an MLK shoe using colors where homeboy was murdered? The hell? What? Yvonne, take a deep breath. That tone deaf ain't the word. It's stupid. It's stupid. Because you're taking something that was a tragic time in American world history, and you're trying to make money off of it. Okay, I understand using that beautiful color, and you want to, we can make a beautiful shoe out of this. You couldn't have picked another color. You could have said, okay, I'm thinking my marketing hat here. LeBron James scored the 51 points, MLK Day weekend. You could have related to something about how, the dream was never deferred or something like that. Showing like maybe a cool campaign of LeBron being a young boy who had dreams of being a basketball player, tying it into the dreams that MLK had for the future of Black people having opportunities in different spaces. You couldn't have had it as a tribute shoe in collaboration with the Civil Rights Museum to think about different colorways that were a nod to maybe his speeches. You couldn't do an all gray shoe. I have a dream shoe that put quotes in like the soles and like the little, part of the shoe for people to read and take away quotes that you don't see every day that could have been pulled from his letters from Birmingham jail. You couldn't do that. You couldn't think through the strategy instead of just doing a money grab. And LeBron, bruh, fam, what was that? What was that? To move into our next marketing takeaway, authentic storytelling doesn't look the same as selling. When you're telling a story that's supposed to be about a legacy or tribute, every piece of your campaign needs to line up from product design, like I mentioned a little bit before, to messaging. You gave your audience mixed signals. You cannot take something that is still emblazoned in a lot of people's mind of what happened that day and try to make a shoe out of it. You did not tell Nike. You did not tell a cohesive story. You did not tell an impactful story. And all them campaigns that y'all do, just do it. The new tagline y'all just came up with. All those campaigns that y'all do in collaboration with these athletes and people, showing them overcoming and perseverance. And this is what you came up with? This is what you came up with? It was lazy. It was lazy. Chat GPT, Copilot, all the little AI things could have gave me a better campaign than this. It was lazy and it was not thoughtful and it was very tone deaf. And you didn't know what the heck you were doing in that room. You were just trying to make some money. You were just trying to make some money. Huh. And then our final marketing takeaway, so I could take a deep breath. Social justice branding requires multidimensional investment. Just simply tying a product release to a social figure's name itself is not the same as investing in a cause like partnerships, education, community programs. The criticism around the sneaker shows why including voices from the community you're trying to honor is critical. Otherwise, your campaign risks looking like a profit on tragedy. Cause I ain't seen no nonprofit tie-in for the partnership. I know they got a foundation for MLK because his daughter Bernice, is she Dr. Bernice? I don't want to get her title wrong. His daughter Bernice, Dr. Bernice, we just gonna put it like that, does a lot of work in the community. I know if Nike would have came with them correct, they could have did something that was impactful and a beautiful tribute, tying in LeBron and MLK in a smart way. LeBron has a foundation, I believe, as well. Why wasn't there a partnership between LeBron's foundation and the MLK Foundation in support of the Civil Rights Museum? Why couldn't they do like a special exhibit about LeBron James and how, and like a I Have a Dream modern day campaign and what the dream looks like today for Black America? You didn't do none of that, and you still releasing the shoe. You heard everything all them people had to say, and you still releasing that shoe. It's tone deaf, and it's not thoughtful. And this is why I say it's so important to have us in the room in positions of power, because this could have been avoided. There could have been multiple ideas that were pushed out that allow for them to look at other options. That maybe there should have been a focus group to see what people's thoughts were around this, especially considering the temperature of what the United States is right now. But I ain't seen none of that happening. I just saw a shoe in which you're trying to profit off of a man's murder who did more for Americana history in the recent years in terms of moving civil rights forward, as well as the black woman who supported him. Y'all just try to make some money. And that's it. Okay. I hope you enjoyed today's chat. Don't forget to follow Coffee with Yvonne on IG and Threads at Coffee with Yvonne. And if you want to find me on my personal account, on my TikTok and IG where I be cutting up, you can go ahead follow me. Go ahead follow me right now at Yvonne_creative marketer. You can also find things like, my business account, Pink Dollhouse Marketing, on Instagram at Pink Dollhouse Marketing, and my website, pinkdollhousemarketing.com. And don't forget, you can always slide into my DMs on the socials. I do answer. It's cool. It's important as us creators, as we continue to build, that we have to keep showing up, keep creating, and that our voice matters. And I'll see you next time on Coffee with Yvonne. And I cannot wait to chat with you soon. Okay, bye! The shoe was dumb. Coffee with Yvonne is produced and edited by Yvonne Pearson. Coffee with Yvonne is created by Pink Dollhouse Marketing. You can catch the latest episodes by subscribing to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.